Well, hello, everyone. Welcome, MVDs. That's most valuable dads. My name is Dr. Carmen, and as the Girl Dad Coach, I am your go to PhD for learning the knowledge and the skill to effectively connect with your daughter so that you can protect her from modern day influences as she approaches adolescence and as she moves through adolescence. And I am so honored to be partnering with Sanical for Periods. Sanical is a femtech company based in Tulsa, Oklahoma, working to eliminate the stigma surrounding menstrual health discussions. My friends over at Sanical, Zakira, Roxanne, and Chase, they've developed a range of creative initiatives and campaigns, including the Period Passport book, the Black Menstrual Health Summit, and the Period Genie game on Google Play. Now, for this segment of the summit, we are pleased to bring you Cordney McClain. He is an Army veteran, actor, spoken word performance artist, inclusion practitioner, graduate of the University of Oklahoma, and a member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. He is passionate about creating workshops and curriculums centered around underserved professionals. His work has afforded him such honors as being voted one of the top 40 Black leaders worldwide. He's been featured in the New York Weekly. He's a Cherokee Nation Public Service Awardee. And as an artist, he is nationally nominated, Apple charted, and Grammy considered in recorded music for his latest album, Pressure Cookers. Now, in addition to all that, he is also the proud father of two princesses, Kamora Monet and Camila Justice, and he's also an incredibly supportive husband to Mrs. Carrie McClain. So we're going to welcome to the virtual stage Mr. Cordney Mac Woods. Welcome.
Appreciate you. Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Yes, indeed. Well, this Girl Dad Joy Summit is so incredibly important. And today, our topic, or in terms of this segment of the summit, our topic is being soft and the dynamic of emotional fluency. I just love this topic. So before we get to that, though, Mac, tell us a little bit, what is your origin story? How did you even get to the place where you were talking about this?
Well, I'll try to be short with that because sometimes I can get very long-winded with that. But my whole mentality is to be the most passionately referred consultant in youth professional development while cultivating elements of personal advocacy, intentionality around professionalism, and self-love with the incubator workshops and community programming. And so when it comes to my background of being a corporate negotiator, project manager, and also having a lot of background when it comes to community outreach. Within the community outreach, I wanted to focus and blend the two worlds with the community outreach and the professional development. Because of my background, I've seen that a lot of people of color want to be where I was when it comes to corporate America, but I didn't want to be there. But I could appreciate those who want to be there. So me being able to understand how I got there, what different professional skills help me do great in those spaces, and how I can teach the next and pull the next up to get there and be there and strive in those spaces. And while you're in those spaces, understand how to navigate those spaces as a BIPOC person, because a lot of those spaces don't want us there. And when it comes to cultural competency, they're not ready for us to be there. So understanding how to be there, prosper, be mentally, spiritually healthy in those spaces, and understand how to climb that corporate ladder with all the different things that's going to come towards you. So because of the love of all those different things, it made me want to be in these K through 12 and higher education spaces and create workshops, incubator programs, and also curriculums based around how do I get this person of color to improve their professional development skills and interview skills and project management skills to be able to thrive in these spaces that we're not seen often in these spaces. And it's so hard for us to get there because there's so much gatekeeping going on. So that's where my background for blending corporate and then K through 12 and higher ed came together. Now, within those spaces, I found myself being drawn and pulled into opportunities to speak on fatherhood, and having two little girls who are so spoiled, and it's all my fault. But that was always a big thing for me, to make sure that they understand how important they are and their self-worth. But when I start speaking on it on panels, it's like, okay, well, now it's not just for my kids, it's for a whole lot of children that I'm never going to meet, but they need these affirmations and these good advice. Everything that I'm giving my girls, they need also, that they may not be receiving at home or this world. So me being able to do that on panels has been such gratification for me that now I seek out any opportunity I have to speak directly on being a girl dad, what that means to those young ladies, and what it means for the men, because none of us are, well, most of us are never taught to be fathers, and dang sure not how to be a girl dad. So everything that I'm learning, I'm just learning from mentors, learning from life, learning from experiences, and constantly learning from my girls.
Oh, I love it. I love it. This is just so fantastic. Your origin story, how you got to talking about this particular topic. I love that you've mentioned, the importance of affirming for our daughters, right? And
Yes.
uplifting them, right? And their self-worth as well. So
Yes.
before we get into this topic, or it might actually be a segue, we'll see. So what have you learned from your daughters?
Oh, to be soft. And we'll get into it, but so I'm single parent raised. My mom very strong. My whole family is really very strong women. um my grandmother had 10 children, 7 of them being women. Then they go on to have daughters, and so my family is huge, but it's mainly majority women. So me being able to be introduced to a lot of things very early, menstrual cycles, um, postpartum, just a lot of things that necessarily you wouldn't see other men being introduced to at a very young age. I was already identifying with such things and female issues very early. So when I had the sensitivity to it, just when I was dating, I would date young ladies, and I remember, dating young ladies, they bring up their menstrual cycle, and me not reacting to other young men my age, that's 21 or whatever have you, but young, not reacting in the way that an average guy would react. And so them understanding that I had some emotional intelligence at a very young age. But what I did take was that my family, very strong women, but a little brass, harsh, blunt, very um, um, just very, very strong women. So a lot of times emotions weren't shown, especially them putting that type of influence on me. So me as a man, I didn't show much emotion as a young kid. And so meeting my wife, understanding emotional intelligence, understanding my emotions, and recognizing the fluency in my emotions and how to react to even myself, not let alone hers. That me and my wife, our relationship prepared me for being a girl dad, because by then I was emotionally intelligent and I felt like I was emotionally aware because I had been learning with my wife.
Yes.
So about time, we started having kids. I did feel more connected to my daughters, and aware that if I had a boy, maybe it may be much different. I pray that it wouldn't be that much different, because I would still want to tell my son, it's okay to cry, but now understand why you're crying. Understand that I don't want you to stand still or be still in that grief, but to understand that grief and how to operate within it, and then learn from it, and then evolve. So hopefully, I would have that same understanding with a son. But those type of elements have been continuously cultivating me as a father, having two girls.
Yes, yes. So that's perfect segue. So let's begin to unpack some of these
Okay.
terms that are included in today's topic. So I
Okay.
want to start with the word soft because that's in quotes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
um,
so go ahead, go ahead.
so, um, since the doctor recommended skin to skin to provide relief of pain for the child, I hold you longer, but they didn't warn me of the pain of not being able to protect you. I'm insecure of falling with you, falling you, because I don't know nothing of being a good father. What do I do when the earth opens up, the ground underneath me collapsing, while rain of your worst nightmare floods on you and decides that I, your protector, your father, your superhero, will lose to a foe I never had a chance of defeating? I'm talking about life. I've always been holding you. So I've always been holding you a little longer because something as simple as coming home is not promised. And you need to know that daddy loves you. And I'm soft, but I'm securely overcoming feelings of tenderness. Dear daddy, I love you. And so that's a little piece of a poem. But the soft that I came up with is securely overcoming feelings of tenderness. And securely, because you want to be totally comfortable in your emotions. You want to be comfortable. Now, they always say, pressure busts pipes, or pressure creates diamonds. And so, pressure isn't necessarily bad, but that anxiety, that stress will kill you. So understanding that I can operate in pressure, I can operate in something being a little difficult, but being able to assess it securely and confidently is a key. Then overcoming. The overcoming is not to shun or push away emotions, but to be able to deal with whatever comes you, because life will throw you curveballs forever, to be able to assess it, address it, and then learn from it. That's the overcoming. Not shunning it, but to recognize it. The feelings, us as men, we don't want to feel, and most things come off as anger when we do feel it, right? So the feelings part is where we get super uncomfortable as men, because we don't want to feel, we don't want to cry, we just want to keep operating. And they say men operate like machines. We just keep going, keep going, keep going. And to segue a little bit, I have an album, #1 spoken word iTunes charts a couple months ago, but my album is called Pressure Cookers, because we will have this lid over us and it's just going and going and going, and without any type of venting programming within us, venting outlets, venting accountability partners, none in sight. So it'll just boil, and what does it usually do? It'll blow up if it boils too long. That's the feelings of it, to be able to wear. Now, the tenderness, I play around with this word because as a man, we don't want to be tender at all. So the tenderness is that recognizing that crying with your loved one is okay. All the vulnerability is in this word, tenderness. The vulnerability of understanding that the strongest people that we look up to were vulnerable. That vulnerability, we looked at them as being strong. We didn't look at James Baldwin as being tender. We didn't look at Martin Luther King as being tender, Malcolm X looking tender. We didn't look at Tupac for being tender. We looked at them as being strong, but we respected them so much for their honesty and their vulnerability. So once we do away with this dilemma in our heads of working vulnerability with being weak, and understand that vulnerability in everyone that we look up to and respect, that vulnerability, that honesty, that's strength. So we understand that we have to draw that strength from that vulnerability instead of looking at it as a negative. So I play with that word tenderness because it makes men feel uncomfortable. But we have to dive into that word and understand that it just means that we're comforting. We're safe space for ourselves and others. We're not just waiting to talk, but we understand about listening and how we're registering and factoring and communicating. That communicating is not just us talking, but listening. And so all that comes with vulnerability is tied to that tenderness. So
Yes.
soft, SOFT.
I love it. It's just a beautiful reframe, right? In psychology, my background, we talk about reframing some of the ways we're thinking about some of these terms. So, securely overcoming feelings of tenderness is
Yes.
just a beautiful reframe. Because, like you said, we have, a belief that being soft is a weakness. But when we reframe it in the way that you have conceptualized it, it's actually a beautiful strength.
Yeah.
So one of my questions is because in my work with dads, as I'm coaching them and how to have these taboo conversations with their daughters, right? It's uncomfortable for dads, like you've mentioned, already, and we have to address that man box, right?
Yes.
That traditional man box, which says you can only express anger and all of that. So, what are some of the ways, Mac, that you think we can help the dads who are participating in the summit to believe in this reframe, to look at being soft
Well,
as something that's powerful?
one, we have to make it totally relatable. Me being a diversity and inclusion consultant, me understanding that you can speak all day to people who do not look like us and can't relate, such as an affluent white male. You can speak all day about equity to this person, but they're not going to get it until you make it relatable for them. So when it comes to tenderness, when it comes to feelings, when it comes to being secure within those, you have to make it relatable. So one, bring it home when it comes to sports. Sports analogy. When have an athlete ever been in a situation where they're being yelled at and do not comprehend the message from the coach? Now, some of us learn and grow from those situations, and some we refrain and we shrink and we can't perform in such state. So understand, even as a coach, you have to understand how to communicate with people differently. As a manager or supervisor, you have to understand how to communicate with people differently and put yourself in their shoes. And that way, the whole conglomerate, the whole business, the whole sports team can grow because you know everyone's weakness, you know all your players' strengths. You don't put the point guard at center. You understand that the center has particular gifts and talent and skills that the point guard can't do. Understand everyone's position. We can't look at it in an equal type of mentality, but we have to understand equity. And so, what can I do for my daughter where she understands particularly the message that I'm trying to get across to her? One, we have to understand everyone in our household and who we deal with, understand their love languages. And a lot of times we only think about our spouse when it comes to love languages. But when we start tapping into what our kids' love language is, how do they receive messages? What gets across to them clear is very much just like I said, dealing with a teammate. You know that you can't get in all teammates behind the same way. You can't try to get someone to learn all in the same way. So once you look at emotions and emotional fluency in the same manner, I think you get a better result because now you understand that I can talk to James this way, of course, at work, but I can't talk to Kimora this way at home. And with men, a lot of times we don't register that I have to communicate with these different people differently because they are different.
Right. Yes. So you've mentioned some very important terms here: emotional intelligence and emotional fluency, right? Talk a little
Yes.
bit more about both of those.
Yes. So for me, the emotional intelligence is recognizing that someone is going through an emotion and being able to assess how to address it and how to support them. Emotional fluency is recognizing that I'm going through something at all. I can see that I'm mad. Okay, why am I mad, and how do I deal with the anger? And once we understand those terms and then understand attach what helps me deal, what helps me recognize, and just not on a personal level, but what can I do for my wife in that space when she's going through something? What can I do for my daughters in that space when they're going through something? Me being able to recognize it and me being able to like attach things to it. That's where the fluency comes. That I can attach things to it. That I can recognize what's going on. The intelligence, the fluency is I can now attach how to assess, where is it coming from, and now how do we deal with it?
Absolutely. So being able to first recognize our emotions, right?
Yeah.
Acknowledge what they are. And then I love that you've also included in there that understanding the background, like why am I feeling?
Yes. And so when I talk about men and even having us go to a one-on-one therapy session, a lot of us push back on that because it's a colonized way of treatment. Colonization in the sense that white people have created this manner in which they deal with therapy. And honestly, it goes away from our cultural background. We stem from a community mindset of treatment. So that's why even when you think about the barbershop, the barbershop, men are actually pretty vulnerable in a barbershop, and we're vulnerable in community settings, in like men's groups. I'm in a lot of men's groups, and they're saying stuff that they would never tell their significant other, because we just vibe more in a community sense. So that's why the barbershop is so important to Black men, because in that sense, we've been in therapy sessions every Saturday morning since we were young. since we were real little, we've been in community therapy sessions since then. And then when you talk about spirituality, um, and spirituality and meditation, we have a cultural significant connection to that. So we connect with that. But also, we're in a space that we have to navigate every day with racism, subconscious biases, microaggressions, passive aggressiveness all the time. And if I walk into a therapy session with someone who does not look like me and cannot relate to anything in my background or my current state, then it's a disconnect. That means I'm walking into a space and you can't even relate to the fact that I'm a Black man having to deal in corporate America, and I deal with racism on a daily. If you can't connect to that, and necessarily you don't have to be Black, but you have to be culturally competent. And so if I'm sitting in a space that's one on one, which is away from what I'm used to as a man, a Black man, it's one on one, and you can't even relate to the significance of my day to day trials and tribulations. That's two. And so the manner in which now, of course, I'm not saying this can happen, but that's why it's so important for us to have therapists and psychologists that people of color, because even if they haven't went through those particular things in their life, they understand the significance of it. Now all skin folk ain't kinfolk, but you would hope to have more of a significance when it comes to the cultural competency and the relatability for psychologists in that space if they look like and that's where a lot of men are running away from, and that's why they run away from therapy. And I say that to say, within therapy, all of us can understand our own trauma, and we can get a we can try to get a grasp on our own trauma and why we do the things we do. And with that understanding, with that emotional intelligence, then we can start being there for the people around us, for our loved ones, in a more significant way, because we understand our own. We understand that we react in certain ways in certain situations because of such and such in my childhood. Now I can look at a woman from a man's point of view and be like, oh, she's not doing that because she's on her period. She's not doing that because she's just an emotional creature, but she's reacting that way because she had these type of situations with her mother when she was young. So now I've been able to, me and my wife, she's been working on me, but with the things she's done, been through in her life, then I can look at it with more of a softer heart and be like, okay, my wife is having a bad day today, and these might be the things that's on her brain today. So let me be softer with her today. Let me try to have more understanding with her today, because I see that she's in a mood, and let me not jump on her for being in the mood. What you in the mood for? You don't need to be. Ain't nobody did nothing to you. Instead of taking that standpoint, being softer with her, being more understanding, being understanding that, okay, these are the things that my wife has dealt with the last year would crumble anybody. My wife is so strong, but shit, all superhumans have a day. they have a particular day where they might be feeling down. Can I understand that? Can I try to relate to that and make sure that I'm a safe space for her?
Yes. Oh
So
my goodness.
those are the different things that I feel like men just don't have different opportunities to even understand. Because a lot of everything is exposure. Did you have the right exposure? I'm not gonna be a investment guru, or I'm not gonna be a computer programming genius if I've never had exposure to it. A lot of times people are very good at what they do because they had a long line of exposure. And so, you look at a grown man with, with two girls and a wife who's never truly had exposure to emotional intelligence and how to be a safe space for someone, and then you just expect him to flip the switch. It's not realistic. So that's another thing. The people around us have to give us some grace too, while we while we get acclimated to this new way of thinking, new way of processing, new way of living.
Yes, and there's just so much to unpack here. So I just love how you talked about or addressed a barrier for African American men in terms of therapy, that in the traditional sense, right?
Yes.
And you've talked about, barbershops as that community therapy group, and that you're a member of other, men's groups to get that support. And I also wanted to acknowledge that you talked about love language, and
Yes.
not only knowing the love language of your romantic partner, but also knowing the love language of your daughter, right, of your children. And so in the few minutes that we have left, Mac, to me, that means that we need to be present enough to know what my romantic partner's love language is, to know what each of my children's love language is, perhaps my coworkers, who knows? So
Yeah.
how can dads be present enough? Because you can't be going through the motions and pick up on all that stuff.
Yeah. So one thing I do for my kids, they've been doing. Let me see if I can get them. Coco, Mila, come here. I was gonna make them do their affirmations real quick, but that's one thing that I've been very intentional of. I wanted them at a young age. Come here, girls. Come here real quick. Go get Coco. And one thing I wanted them to do is be able to understand that they're important, they're beautiful. Take your bonnet off. Okay, come here. Say hello.
Hi. Hi.
Welcome.
All right, so I want y'all to look at the camera and say, what are you?
A princess and a queen, intelligent and beautiful.
Okay, say it slower.
Princess and a queen, intelligent and beautiful.
A princess, a queen, an intelligent leader, and I'm beautiful. All right, thank you. All right, y'all can go back to your electronics. And so them, them saying that since, my oldest is 8 now, the youngest is 7, and they've been saying that since they was like 3. Like I was trying to mold them very early. So yeah, for kids it might just be words, but the thing about kids are they depend on the word escapes me right now. They depend on discipline and order. And if you take order and discipline away from them, they really do thrive on it. So they're looking for order. They're looking for discipline. They're looking for if they know mommy's going to come home every day at 6 and at 6 o'clock and she's not there, they're wondering what's going on. That they look for those routine. Kids need routine. So for me, the affirmations was one, an example of routine, but 2, even if they're not paying attention to the words does something cognitively to them. They understand when they walk into a space, they're a queen, they're intelligent, they're beautiful, they're leaders. They understand that because they've been saying it over and over to the point where now it's second nature to them in this muscle memory, but they're also getting to the age now where the muscle memory is thriving with the understanding what they're actually been saying all of these years too. So I got them tricked with the muscle memory, and now that message is stuck with them, and so now they're starting to really understand the meaning behind the words, and they're being able to connect it. And so like sometimes they'll just say random things, and they be like, we'll be talking about something random, like, well, my mom is a queen, we're princesses, and daddy's a king. Like they're already making those connections without any of our any of our direct influences within that moment. We're not even saying anything, and they're already processing everything in the sense that I'm intelligent, I'm a leader, I see what mommy is. Mommy's a queen, daddy's a king. They're putting all those things together without me I'm not even influencing the conversation at that point. But I've done it young. Me and my wife have put those messages into our kids very young. So now at 8 and 7, when they're really developing all their own values, their personalities are really thriving, and it's being kind of combated with everything that they're kind of learning from their peers. But because we've done such a great job at a young age, that subconscious can't really be damaged, with low self-esteem and doubting themselves. Now, yes, we're all human, so we're going to doubt ourselves and such. That's going to come. But when you build such a strong foundation for a young person, now when the self-esteem issues come and kids not wanting to be your friend and all that stuff coming in, as elementary will do, and peers are mean. Once that comes in, they have a strong foundation to battle those hurdles and push those things through.
Yes, and thank you so much for bringing them in. That was absolutely fantastic. And as we begin to wrap up, Mac, we're going to display a link so that people can connect with you and tell us a little bit about what they might find when they go to this link.
Definitely. So this link will take you directly to my education-focused curriculum. So within this curriculum, I've taken spoken word, my love for spoken word, and I've broken down Henry Tajfel's social identity theory. So I take different such things as categorizing, subgroup, self-actualization, self-identity, and all those elements of tying in either spoken word, any type of art, and any type of workshop incubator programs that are contributing to self-love and understanding that you're even goal orientation. All of that is poured into my incubators and programs within this link. And so it gives you overviews of those different things that we discuss. If you hire me or reach out to me to do a workshop, those are the different things that I usually discuss, and it's charted by design.
Fantastic. Well, everybody, we want you to go over to that link right now and get connected. It's absolutely fantastic to have had you here, Mac, for the Girl Dad Joy Summit. Any final word as we wrap up?
Be soft. Be soft. Man, we've actually, been running away from this term all our lives. And this vulnerability that I directly speak of, understand that all of our leaders that we've appreciated for all of our lives, everyone that we've looked up to as strong Black men, had a strong sense of vulnerability and honesty. So once you're able to tap into your own vulnerability, your own honesty, it can open you up to be safe spaces for the people around you, namely your girls and your spouses. And your mothers and your aunts, your friends, your sisters. You'll be able to recognize the things that a woman, and not just a woman, but a person outside of yourself is going through, and how can you support them? How can you be there for them? And how can you be a listening ear? And all of that is wrapped up into securely overcoming feelings of tenderness. And so, yes, be soft.
I love it. And that is the final word, Mac. We are complete. Thank you so much for being here.
It's an honor.
All right.
All right.